In the 10th and final episode of Season 1, we finally get some answers to what has been building up on My Adventures with Superman. But is it what we expected, or was it a super disappointment? Let's talk about that. What's up, Nerdgenic Nation? Superhero nerd Aaron Waller here, and today I want to talk about the 10th and final episode of Season 1 of My Adventures with Superman, titled Hearts of the Fathers. This episode takes place at Thanksgiving as Clark, Lois, and Jimmy get promoted at the planet after their article about the city saving Superman that we saw in last week's episode, and Lois's father comes to celebrate Thanksgiving, and let's just say things don't quite go as planned. Now, I had several predictions as the season progressed, and for the most part, they come to fruition in this episode. For instance, we learned that the general that's been after Superman this entire season has in fact been Lois's father, Sam Lane, which, as I mentioned way back when he first got name dropped as the general, was one of, if not the most likely possibilities. So I guess it wasn't necessarily a surprise, but it was nice to finally get some confirmation. Then we find out that the events with Nemesis Omega did in fact happen on this Earth, which I was a bit surprised by, considering that it seems like something someone would have talked about, or at least the Kents may have known about prior to them living on the farm, which is something that I hope that they can at least have a quick reference to next season. But if they weren't willing to talk about it at the end of this episode, I kind of doubt they'll bring it up again unless absolutely necessary. And the final big reveal was that Nemesis Omega, although in a different suit, is likely being General Zod, as the final line of the season was spoken how he'll be making them kneel, and one of Zod's most famous lines, if not his most infamous line, is about making people kneel before him. So essentially they confirmed it without really confirming it, but if you know, you know. And although it isn't necessarily said, I still think that Jor-El's message and speaking to Clark in this episode is potentially evidence of the fact that he was trying to warn Clark about Zod, though Clark couldn't understand the language. Which is just another thing that I hope that they touch on next season, which only makes sense as if Zod is coming, Superman has to know about him, and only time will tell if that's actually going to come to fruition or not. But despite this episode having a lot of reveals, whether they be more obvious or not, I have to say that it hands down has some of the best action of this series so far. Like, Superman has had some good fights this season, but this entire episode is packed with some of the best fight scenes and sacrifices that he has to make thus far. And I think in large part that's owed to the tension that's been building this entire season, and this episode very much builds off the entire season, but more specifically the previous two episodes of Zero Day Part 1 and Part 2. They all flow so nicely from one to the next that they tell their own story that, although crucial to the overall arc of the season, also feel like that if you watch them on their own, would be just as enjoyable as a standalone cartoon. And I would even be bold enough to say that the last 4 episodes of My Adventures with Superman Season 1 is way better than 99% of the DC AU movies that we've seen come out over the past few years. And as a matter of fact, the entire show is better. I really enjoyed just about every single episode, and I feel like I've said that just about every video in this series, but it's really been a delight to watch week after week, and it kind of sucks that we'll have to wait until at least sometime next year for that to drop. I've truly enjoyed just about every single episode, and I feel like I've said that in just about every single video in this series, but it really has been a delight to watch week after week, and it kind of sucks that we'll have to wait until at least sometime next year for the second season to drop, but we know it's coming, and that's enough for me right now. And an even better Superman story, as there are so few in animation or live action these days. But one thing I know for certain is that whatever is coming next season, whenever next season comes, it'll be exciting, I'll be ready for it, and I can't wait, because this season was so great, and the grade that I'll give Season 1 of My Adventures with Superman is a 9 out of 10. Honestly, I could really entertain a 10 out of 10 grade for this season had it not been for a few filler episodes, but that's bound to happen with any show, especially an anime style show. But anyway, those are my thoughts on episode 10 of My Adventures with Superman and the season overall, and now I want to hear from you in the Nerdgenic community. What did you think of this final episode? How did you like the season as a whole? What was your favorite and your least favorite aspect? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell notification so you don't miss out on any future videos from me or the rest of the Nerdgenic team. And also be sure to give us a follow across all social media platforms at Nerdgenic. That way you don't miss out on any special news, announcements, or articles at nerdgenic.com. But in the meantime, if you want even more video content from us, check out my thoughts on the previous episode of My Adventures with Superman right over here, or for more DC content, check out this playlist right over here. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, we really do appreciate it, and we hope to see you in the next video.